ready?
Yeah, we start the recording, so we are officially
Okay, we're
ready.
officially started. So we just gave out a good thank you to everybody who's here live, which is wonderful. And anybody else here who is listening on the recorded version, we're very grateful that you're with us. And we have about an hour and a half ahead of us here this evening, this afternoon, wherever you may be. So the whole purpose of this masterclass is to decipher what is electroculture, give you some techniques, some things that you can start to practice in your own backyard, in your gardens, in your homestead, on your farm. Different scales, good for beginners, good for intermediate growers alike. And I want you to imagine taking electroculture wherever you need to apply it, and this demystifying presentation should give you all the tools necessary to get started. So we have about an hour and a half that we want to do to cover everything here in this masterclass. We may go over that. We're going to try to keep it on time, but there's a lot of content, and those of you who have access to the replay, which is everybody, if you shared your email, you can watch this and rewatch this. Now, I do want to mention that at the end of each of our segments, okay, which are listed here, at the end of each of our segments, we have a Q&A session. And then at the very finish, we've got a open mic Q&A. So to differentiate, I just want to say, in the chat feed here on Zoom, you can communicate with us. We've got Andrea on board. He's looking through any questions, comments that come up within these portions of our presentation. Add that to the chat feed, and we'll choose some of those after each segment. And once more at the end, we'll open the mic for a few people who may want to speak with us personally and the rest of the group. So we're going to go over the basics of electroculture, the fundamental essentials of electroculture. We're going to go into antenna culture. We're going to go into Lakosky coils. We named it coil catalysts. This includes other types of coils as well. Pyramid power, utilizing pyramids for charging seeds and other substrates, which is really fascinating. And water wonders, which there is a lot of material on water. That could be a whole week course. Francesco is going to deliver a good segment on that, aren't you, Francesco?
Yes, absolutely. That's why I'm here.
So we want to remove a lot of the mystique around electroculture. There's a lot of misinformation out there, particularly within the online communities, as people start to learn and share, which we encourage greatly, which I mentioned in the first portion, that we are David and I are administrators of the ElectroCulture Beginners to Advanced community, and we encourage everybody to share readily. But there's a lot of errors that we see, and there's a lot of common questions that keep coming up, and we want to address some of those here. What electroculture is not, great Scots. I must admit, I love that movie. I had to throw it in there. Doc Brown is a classic. This plug here in the tree, this post had probably the best reach in the last 2 years in the entire community. But this isn't exactly what electroculture is not. We're not willfully extracting energy from trees. We're delivering energy for trees, plants, organisms in the soil, life in general. Okay. And a little introduction here. So there is no David today, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, but here I'm Ray Lee Bacon, for those of you who don't know me. We've got Andrea. You can wave, Andrea. And we've got Francesco. We'll go into a little more detail in a moment of who everybody is. So a brief on what is electroculture. So electroculture is the ability to harness electric and magnetic forces. And I dare say there's a bit of debate on it, but other forces as well. But we'll leave it at magnetism and electricity in order to stimulate life for the benefit of all organisms, and it's usually applied in the context of growing food, medicine, herbs, etc. ElectroCulture. So we've got David here. He's not here. So I'll just briefly say for everybody who might not know who David is, David founded the ElectroCulture Beginners to Advanced community, and he has been working with ElectroCulture for 20, maybe even 30 years now, and has applied predominantly within the realm of active or dynamic electroculture, which is using techniques that are not passive. It's using techniques that are linked to the electrical grid, usually low voltage stimulation. Here we got David here, some of the experiments, devices. Myself, so Rayleigh Bacon is my name. My work with electroculture has been predominantly in the realm of geobiology, which is a whole other field unto itself. I have a background in gardening, commercial farm operation for over 10 years, high rotation, vegetable production, and I applied electroculture in various designs for people's backyard and homestead gardens. And that's been my focus until I came into this community and have moved to a lot of administration, I must say. So there's been a lot of emails going out for this presentation in preparation. This was my favorite design that I did. This is called the Galaxy Garden. Those of you who may have seen it in the Energetic Agriculture podcast, I did a multi-part segment on this. I think I'll send that out with more detail. But in summary, this was a design that was about 100 to 150 square meters with the shape of a galaxy, as you can see there, 100 to 150 edible medicinal therapeutic plants done in a polyculture system. And I applied electroculture in the context of pre-charging with pyramids, which is my portion today. And you can see here, this is a zucchini. Although they do get quite long, like the ones in these baskets, this one here, this type of zucchini, was 1.50 meters in length, centimeters. That was my all-star zucchini. And Andrea, if you would like to introduce yourself. So Andrea, I'll leave that to you. I'll just say Andrea has been in electroculture for a very long time. He is, in my opinion, one of the greatest electroculture pioneers who is presently alive and has had one of the greatest impacts, and particularly in Italy, where he's located. But if you want to share more about your work, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you. So I started 12 years ago, more or less, because I started my self-sufficient project in the mountain. So I'm in a climate that it's quite hard and 1,000 meter between Flores and Bologna. And over there, since the beginning, when I started my food forest, I apply many techniques. And the reason why was I want to make my own food. I want to be self-sufficient, and especially I wanted to create a place for showcase. And due to my curiosity, I was attracted by by all the effect of the energy in the nature, and I put together many techniques like permaculture, electroculture, geobiology, and the usage of radiesthesia for investigation. And this is a part of the academy that I create. Then we will go through the evolution step by step, but at the moment we have more than 400 projects in large scale. When I say large scale, is from 1 hectare to 100, 120 hectares for an overall coverage of 5,000 hectares all around Europe, mainly Italy, and a little bit even in other countries. These are some pictures of customers. I like a lot to teach. online in presence and training on the job during projects. This is a mint. Here it was 1 meter 57. Then it ended in October 1 meter 75. That it's higher than the lady here, Lucrezia, with only 3-4 techniques involved. And so there is a very incredible potential. We go through the presentation. We'll be ready to show new cases, even a lot of testimonials. I'll be available for question and answer with you at the end. How many? Already there are some questions in the chat we go through later on.
Great.
So thank you.
Thanks, Andrea. And we have Francesco here. Francesco, if you would like
Hello.
to share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. First of all, thanks for being here. And a little bit of myself. I came across about 10 years ago orgone energy, and so at the very beginning it was just mainly curiosity. Then I realized that I did some. Actually, I didn't do discover. I came across people that discovered the qualities of water, and I was extremely attracted by this. So I started to develop this interest in working with informed water, and at one point I was really desperate to get some help in understanding things, and that's where Andrea showed up, and this is about 4 or 5 years ago. And since then I met Andrea. My life was completely put upside down. I got lost to everything I was used to believe before, and I decided to move in this marvelous world, because it's in the end of the day it's just a beautiful way of bringing life to us, to the planet, to the animal, to everyone. So yeah, I'm specialized in I do with Andrea at the moment. I'm a student of the academia, and very proudly. And yes, during this course I will teach you how to deal with water, how to charge it, how to clean it, and we're going to talk about possibly about 10 techniques on how to treat water, which they will bring extremely good to whoever will drink the water. So that's mainly what I will do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Francesco. Okay, so one of the things that comes up a lot in our community online, this is ElectroCulture has been around for a very long time, but it's hard for in the English community to get access to good information, and there are a lot of challenges that come along the way, and learning through trial and error is really important. But what I want to ask everybody who is listening here is live is to just answer this question in the chat feed, if you may. What are some of the challenges that you are experiencing out there? We've heard people share with us before that ultimately most people want to grow high quality food. They want to get better yields. They want more resistance to disease, et cetera, move to more organic techniques. But what are some of the specific challenges? Okay, and we'll cover those a little bit later. So please leave that in the chat. So David had made a nice timeline here. Now, ElectroCulture as a concept has been around without its name probably for thousands of years, and there are elements of ElectroCulture that go back to many ancient cultures. We don't have enough time to cover a lot of that. Here in Italy, there are the Etruscans, which are pre-Roman, very interesting. A lot of divination work done, a lot of work with nature. There are many cultures that worked with nature spirits, and they had different terms. And we do go into some of this stuff in future content, but when it comes down to ElectroCulture in its modern context, we're looking at it through the lens of electricity, electromagnetism, magnetism, all of these conventional forces that are well understood. And there are many pioneers that have shared their work, and you'll have access here to some of this material. You can look at some of the timeline here. Many people are aware of Christophe Flo, but there are many people that came before him who also had very, very significant contributions. And in the slide ebook, we go into a bit more detail of some of these individuals. For those who donated, you'll have access to that. One of the themes, though, that's come up with ElectroCulture that I really want to emphasize is it goes in these waves and these spits and these spurts where it just like peaks and troughs. And this here is a representation of the peak that happened in the 20th century in the 1930s, pre-World War II. And then we saw a massive drop as we moved into the 2000s. Obviously, this data isn't relevant to the computer age. So this is hypothetical based on the fact that ElectroCulture was actually removed from institutions, universities. The term disappeared and it's become rediscovered, but it's been a theme. And when we started the ElectroCulture Beginners to Advanced community, we had the name Energetic Agriculture. And pretty quickly, we went here in June, this is last year in June, we were just crawling. There was maybe 1,000 people who had been there for up to 10 years or so, you know. And then suddenly it just exploded in one season. And immediately after that, this is representing the engagement of the community and the posts within the community. It tanked almost down to where it started, all in one season. And this is because Facebook came down hard on us. Hey, Francesco, can you mute your mic, please?
Yes, sorry.
Facebook came down really hard on us. They shadow banned the community, and now we've managed to dispute it and we're starting to lift it. But what we're seeing is there's still a lot, when it grows, there's a lot of interests that seem to want to squish it. And what I really want to encourage everybody here listening is apply these techniques, see for yourself that they work, and share them within not just our community, but other communities online. Get the message out there, and hopefully this trend will have less peaks and troughs, and we'll be able to be more consistent with the movement and get it into the mainstream, which I think is really important. Andrea, do you want to speak a little bit here about Christophe Flo? You're very well read on the man and his work.
Yeah, absolutely. So Justin-Étienne Christophe Flo, it's what we call the father of electroculture because he was moving to the next level of really big application size and quantity. You can imagine he realized in 20 years more than 150,000 devices sold all over the world. And he started in 1918, more or less, so 100 years ago, who solve same problem we have now a little bit, let's say, food scarcity, soil erosion, and even he was noticing since the beginning the growth, the strongness, the nutrition factor was improved. And he did a great career developing the antenna at the beginning. And at the end of the career, he was working with telluric forces, introducing new devices that we apply underground. So he was a genius on that area, but is not known. That's why we wrote the book analyzing all the patents and reproducing all the replica of the patents. So there are many history about Christophe Flo. We will have one full dedicated meeting on him. It will be a lot of information, and we share also results, what happened, what works well, what not.
From your direct experience as well. and
Yeah,
that of
yeah,
many people in Italy.
absolutely. Still, we are working on new devices. But what is interesting is we reproduce the devices and we obtain the same result he got 100 years ago. So honestly, that's the clear definition that it works. It works if you do the things in the right way. You can obtain exactly the same result that he was describing.
Yeah, here he is on the side for those who didn't catch that.
Yeah,
And this is a friend of yours as well,
Richard,
Richard.
is, but he's not the only one. I have other customer. We have Alana Moore with,
Yeah, there's Alana, who's wonderful.
yeah, we have Medidao with the super big pumpkins, and we have Ray with a fantastic root.
Well, that's supposed to be a carrot, and oddly enough, carrots are when they fork, usually it's a disaster because you don't get much of a yield. But in this case, it forked so large, my carrots, that each carrot was the size of a normal carrot.
Yeah, usually we are surprised
Oh
about
my
the
gosh.
size, because the size, it's very impressive, but the taste, the smell, the resilience of the plants are really super interesting as well. This is Loic on the left with a 1.2 kilo salad. In the center, Richard, 1.3 kilo salad. And on the right, these are some of my dandelion in my garden, 55 centimeters. And on the left, you have the dandelion that are spontaneous in nature without any electroculture influence, that are less than half in size.
I do want to mention a little bit more on what you were saying there, Andrea, about the nutritional quality and the flavor, because this is really important. Within the realm of conventional agriculture, it's possible to get epically large produce by pumping it with, nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. But the result is you often get plants that are full of sodium, water, and less mineral density and less phytochemistry, which are they're called secondary metabolites. They're unique compounds that plants produce, and they use them to defend themselves. But they're also the compounds that are antioxidants, they're medicinal, they're therapeutic, and plants won't produce them unless they get all of their basic needs met. And the thing about electroculture is you get not only the larger growth, like conventional NPK, you get higher amount of nutrient density and these secondary metabolites, these unique compounds, which equate to better flavor and more color and disease resistance. Besides that, what is actually happening with electroculture? There's a lot of mechanisms at play, but one of the primary ones is it's stimulating the microbial life within the soil. It's increasing the replication rates. It's increasing the transfer of nutrients, the uptake of nutrients into plants. It's stimulating plant hormones and having all kinds of other metabolic effects. And there's electrochemistry going on here, which David knows a lot more about this. This is his slide. This is another slide that David put together, which once again in the slide ebook, this will be present, which goes into a greater detail about different crops. There's a whole host of different crops here that David compiled how he did that, I have no idea. The amount of work he put into this one document for his book, which I highly encourage, Electro-Horticulture. He documented a whole bunch of research and he compiled it together and demonstrated all of these massive increases in crop yields. And we have this graph to demonstrate that. So one of the advantages of electroculture, I think that's most important, is for us to be able to move away from toxic agriculture, dare I say, right? it should be part of the regenerative agriculture movement. It's still on the fringes, but it's taking up speed, and I think it's going to find its way right up there with the big movements, right? From silvopasture to agroforestry to permaculture. Electroculture is destined to rise up with all these big movements. And it can be one of the important, not the only, but one of the important tools in the toolkit for us to grow high quality food and regenerate ecosystems at scale. Something very important. And for you, the listener, it can be one of the tools that you can start to use to grow more food, more medicine, more plants, a better garden in your backyard, your farms, your homesteads, and start to discover an entire universe of possibilities. Right? We all need to do this. Victory gardens, grow more food, and this is one of the ways to do so. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to go through some of the questions that have been posed so far. Those of you who want to go get some water, stretch, maybe have a pee break, we'll start up in 5 minutes. Those of you who want to stay, Andrea, if you can pull out some questions from the chat, and let's see where it takes us.
Okay, let's do it.
Just a
So
couple, I think.
I start since the beginning, because there are many chats. I don't know if we are able to do it all, and I go through. In the meantime, you take a rest.
Okay,
Um,
I'm gonna sit down here. Excuse me, bye guys.
please. Okay, so I see there are a lot of people from many parts of the world, so very welcome. Thank you. Let me see the question, where I start. Question. How thin can a copper wire be and still be an effective antenna? Let's say that usually I started to do antenna more or less 11 years ago. They still work, even if they are rusted a little bit. The conducibility decrease, but they are still working. So I believe they are quite infinite in terms of conducibility. You can use copper, aluminum, iron, depending on the metal, the effect will change. And do living tree like copper wrap around them? I don't wrap copper or any other metal around plants. I suggest to work at the base or with other technique like antenna and iron that touch the ground. The stereo wire, it's mainly used for the water system. And again, we don't wrap any coil, any plastic around the trunk of the tree, but only at the base, at the middle, in a branch, but with a lot of space, because we don't want to interfere. Okay, there are some.
I have started experimenting with using copper tape on plant wounds to see if there's any effect, but the jury is still out on that one.
What material to use, like coated copper?
Like a coated copper tape.
I prefer to use electric cable or recycling copper stuff, and I usually combine multiple metals. I prefer to have a battery effect with a positive and a negative metals combination. That is one of the key of the even Christoph Law in his patent, always using multiple metals.
Dissimilar.
When
One
dealing,
more question, sorry, and we'll move on.
when dealing with spirals, we have a session of spiral soon. Which direction? How do we know objectively the effect on each direction? You have to test one east, one west, one south, one north, one northwest. Okay, joking, but we usually put the antenna like a spiral in the south. This is the approach we use, but it works even if it is in a pot. It works in different position. the recommended is the south, but you can have results even
What
with.
about those, Andrea, in the southern hemisphere?
They work. If you work in a pot, you have the always the same flow from south to north. Even in the ground, from south to north, the magnetic field is not changing. I will put an antenna in the south.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't invert maps to have the south on the top and the north on the bottom.
Magnetic field is moving always from south to north, even in Australia. In the book by Christoph Law that we found in Melbourne was explained very well. They did many installation. I have customer in Australia, New Zealand. They do always installation with antenna in the south, and it works.
And in our other
Right.
in our other series, I guess you can cover that also with
Sure,
Christoph
sure.
Lowe's antennas. Yeah.
We have one session only for antennas. So let's go. Let's move on.
All right. So here we are, the spiral antennas. These are this is the gateway to electroculture for a lot of people. It's been that way in the English community. And this is where people are sharing the most material. And there's a lot of questions, and we want to cover a lot of the basics of this in this first portion. David is a technical man. He's an engineer by trade. He's not here. He was going to speak more about the technicalities of the electrical current and how it flows with the antennas. My understanding is one of the primary mechanisms at play is radio wave frequencies, and that there's a release of photons for one, which is causing a stimulation in plant growth. But also when the radio waves, when they enter into the antenna, they create a current that is heading down to the plant, depending on and this is where the conductivity of your wire matters, and different gauges of wire. So the thickness will determine how much current can travel. But generally speaking, we're working with very, very low gauge wire, 2 to 3 millimeter wire. Now, there are other mechanisms that play with what's happening with these antennas, and the work of Igina in Italy, many things that we don't have time to cover, but that's the primary mechanism. This is what a lot of people are doing presently within the community and online, and there are companies like Thrive Garden, which I think we have them present this evening, who sell these. We also encourage people to make them as well. And this is where you start. And one of the most common questions that comes up is the direction of the spiraling coil. And I'm a bit dyslexic, so I actually have a hard time with that myself, counterclockwise from the ground up. But Andrea, can you comment on that? I want to hear it from you actually, because this is something that comes up so often, and let's finish it here tonight, this
Yeah,
morning.
what do you mean exactly, Ray? What kind
That
of comment?
do you think because with the work of Agina, there's the spiral
Sure.
antennas that he made, which is moving counterclockwise from the bottom up, unless my dyslexia has taken over.
Okay.
What is the jury on that?
Okay, so according to Igina, the sunlight from the sun is jumping into the earth with a clockwise direction. It means the rotation of the light is clockwise. So if we create the antenna with this shape, it will be easy for the light to enter with the heater, with the magnetic field in this kind of device. And sometimes you can see even trees that are clockwise or anti-clockwise because they are organized. You can see even plants, flowers that are organized. They build the material to be in harmony with the
And
energy.
we see that with amino acids as well. When you shine a light on an amino acid, it begins to spin.
Yeah,
So there
you
is this
see,
relationship between light and spin.
Yeah,
form.
absolutely. So there are many things like DNA or storms or tornado, vortex in the water. They can be. So we always have this shape. I did a lot of experiment at the beginning with this kind of antenna. So it's easy to make, very easy to test, but I prefer to stick around something separate and not in the plants, like in the example. I have an antenna that is separated.
And then you splice it and redirect it. It's like having multiple one antenna that's driving multiple plants or multiple areas. I mean,
Or you can make a big antenna, 6 meter and 25, and then you can connect multiple plants, or you can even energize.
get 625 get 625 volts current.
No, you can really cover 1,000, 2,000 square meter with one antenna. It's when you have a garden or you have an horticulture area.
And this is typically what people have been sharing for the last year. These are the spiral antennas, which is a fun way to get started and start to see results. And what I find fascinating is that given that the primary mechanism I mentioned before is being radio waves, and thinking about Agina's work as well, and the sun sending out energy that is in a spiral manner, I don't think it's just the current that's stimulating the plants. I think there's also a field, maybe it's a magnetic field, I don't know, but having a effect, because I also have seen with adjacent plants, this is Agina here. This is a simple spiral I did, which this is the part that confuses me, right? Is like this is a gold spiral that I did with a Paulwania tree, and you can see the size difference. And I had done it with not just these two; these are the ones I took the photo of. My sample group was a bit larger, but universally, I saw that the spiral antenna, even though it was in the greenhouse, which is like a Faraday cage, there's not a lot of radio waves and penetrating through there as far as I'm aware. Certainly not a lot of voltage as well, because it's not very high, yet the effects were significant.
Yeah, it's a really small antenna, but as you can see, it creates effect. Even if you put a conch with the spiral,
It's a snail shell.
exactly, it works. Huh? It's but every plant's responding differently. The mushroom
Yeah,
response.
this guy did a test here with mushrooms, and he saw that the first fruiting bodies that emerged were on the bag that had the substrate that had the spiral antenna, which, for me, it's strange because the Chinese have done experiments with high voltage current and mushroom production, but to see that very low cost techniques can be used. And of course, this can scale up with other techniques that we can share in future, but this is a good starting point. We have a testimonial here. This is someone from our community as well, and a reverse spiral, which I had to throw this in here, but he had results even with the reverse mechanism at play. And it doesn't, I want to repeat, it doesn't have to be copper. This is what's typically done within the community. Andrea, as well as myself, we like to work with aluminum wire that's been coated with color. It's a bit more inexpensive, more versatile, easier to come by, and you can play with color, which also has an effect as well. But this is a picture here. This is a Tagetes plant in a copper vase with just one antenna. And I've noticed, this is what leads me to think that there's also, gosh, I don't know how I keep adding all these little streaks on the slides. I apologize, everyone. Haven't figured that one out yet. But my pointer seems to be leaving marks. I noticed that depending on how I spiral the antenna, it changes the morphology of the plant subtly, which is making me think that there's a relationship to the shape as well as not just the current that's moving through and having an effect. Meaning that this elongated spiral here, which has one at the top and one at the bottom joined together, it created a longer stalk, a longer stem, and the nodes were further apart on the leaves. And that changed depending on the shape of the spiral that I used, which maybe it was a coincidence. I haven't done it on other tests. We've also seen that in the proximity of the antenna, other plants also grow better. There could be current that's jumping from here into the adjacent plant here, but it might also be something to do with fields, which I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot to discover, which is why we're trying to get this movement to spread so that more people can start to do their own research. And if anyone has any questions on this, we're on time. So we've got maybe a couple minutes, 4 minutes to answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, okay, try to summarize because there are many questions on the chat. So again, the rotation of the sun, it's from top to the earth clockwise. It means it rounds clockwise. And when we do the spiral, if we make a clockwise, we try to use mainly sun energy. That is the most powerful. And anti-clockwise, it's the energy response of the earth. So if you want to
Moving
increase
upwards to unite.
yeah,
Yin, yang, masculine, feminine, right?
exactly. But you need to consider that every plant is different, and sometimes even the same species with different cultivar show that they love more sun energy instead of earth energy. And it's always a discover. We can tell you what works in the majority of the case, what not. And then colors are affecting the results because colors emits frequency, and it's important to try different colors. Red or blue are opposite the scale. They will create a different result, and then you can combine even different materials. You can use aluminum spirals, and then you can add in the aluminum a little copper wire, and this will change the frequency, will change the energy through the spiral. And so,
And we should mention, Andrea, you as well as David you're in Europe. David's in the States. You guys also sell the molds for making spirals, and those are, if I'm not mistaken, those are within the Fibonacci sequence, right? The golden ratio.
yeah, that's made with a phi ratio. We have also the STL file available for free in the website, or we can deliver, no problem.
SDL meaning 3D printing, right?
3D print they can download on the website, and they can do print as a service in the country, or we can deliver this already made with documents, video, tutorial, and
Well, I think
documentation.
what we can we'll put in some of these mentions in an email afterwards, and those interested, you can look into it. Those not, it's fine. So we'll move on now to you, Andrea, if you want to speak with everyone about Lakosky coils for about 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a very basic device, but I love it because it was my first device when I started 12 years ago to apply this coil in a maple tree that was very sick. Another reason why I love ElectroCulture, that we can save sometimes, not every time, but we can really save sick tree. And with customer, I shown many times that very old trees can start to produce again. I had a lot of testimonial of very old trees that They don't do any flowers, so they don't do no fruits. After the Lakosky coil, we had a fantastic season. They started to bloom again and to have great fruits on pear, on raspberries, on the apples.
May I say something to that? Actually, I I had an apple tree that was barren. It was fully mature. It was like at least 20 years old, and the land that I moved to for 5 years that I was there, it didn't produce one apple. And I had my wife's aunt who owns the land. She said, "No, we haven't had any fruit off this tree." And I put a Lakosky coil at the base on the ground, and I kid you not, that following year it began to produce apples. And what happened was well, not my son, he ran over the Lakosky coil with the lawnmower, which was a disaster. And I never got around to fixing it. I removed it, and it to this day it still produces apples. So it's really weird.
In my case, I have many experience of trees that have been saved, let's say. Even I had a customer with grapes, no fruits for 7 years. We installed the coil, and the next season, a lot of grapes. And that's fantastic because we can really extend the life of the plants, and it's easy. You can reuse a lot of material that you can find around, like electric cable. You see the picture. You can put in the bottom. You can put down in the directly in the contact of the hole, behind, in the middle, in a branch, around the horticulture plants in the house. So there are a lot of infinite application, and of course we can put even around ourselves, like bracelet, etc. And this is the real Lakosky experiment with
Interesting.
geranium. He did some experiments with cancer injection, and with the plants, you see the ring is with a 32 inclination, and the crossing is always in north direction. And he saved the plants, and the plants was growing bigger and bigger, and all the other plants with the cancer injection died. So the experience was described in the book. You can find you can find a free book called The Secret of Life. Is a PDF available online, but we can share even the link in the follow-up email. And
May I say one thing? Sorry, Andrea. Something that I
Sure.
find very bizarre is this angle 32 degrees. It happens to be the angle of repose, which is if you take sand and you just continually drop it, that the angle that it forms is exactly 32 degrees. So there's a gravitational mechanism here too, which
yeah,
I don't
there
know
are
what that is.
numbers, like the pyramids. It's plenty of numbers that you know, but it works even in the ground. If you put flat, it works. Even if you put, but it's important that you keep the crossing or the opening in the north direction to be aligned with the magnetic field of the Earth.
So that's regardless, just like you've spoken before about telluric energy, that's regardless of the hemisphere that you're in. So if you're listening from Australia, New Zealand, you still open it.
Yeah, the flow, it's always the same. You take the compass, you see the direction. This is the energetic flow of the magnetic Earth.
Amazing.
Magnetic field always at the moment. Maybe it turns one day. Okay, so there are more experiments with tomato plants. We have the control on the left. We have the plants with a couple of coils that are bigger. And on the left here, we have a propagation application. For instance, we use directly in the water. There's spiral, and the Lakosky coil, it's outside. And we have sometimes a very big gap against the control that is even 3 times bigger and faster, the routing. So this is one of the 50 techniques. We have, I've seen many questions. There are more than 50 techniques, and this is only one. So, and with one, you can do multiple choice. More details on the cancer test. And this is on the right. We have the wrong application. You see the compass is in this direction, and the opening is east. We need to turn the coil with the north opening. And in the left, we have a range of different power in the Lakosky coil, like the one. It's just a simple ring of cable with the copper inside, an electric cable. Then if you remove a couple of centimeters and you keep the copper outside, the power increase. Or if you create a spiral around with another material like copper and aluminum or iron and copper, the difference of potential will increase again. And finally, you can add a magnet. You can add a ferrite magnet oriented with the north, and you can increase the power of this Lakosky coil. More power doesn't mean more effect. So I want to be clear. If you do bigger things, this not as a result, maybe you don't have bigger effect, because there are certain range that can really make a change in plants. If you go up, there are no result, or maybe you can even kill the plants. If the effect is too small, there are no result again. So it's important to understand that every plant has a response that depends on the electric field, magnetic field, on the soil, on the nature of the plants, because another very intriguing thing is that we try with very ancient seeds, and we had a certain result. They are responding very rapidly. I mean, original plants that have not been modified. We try with F1 or genetically modified plants. The response are very limited. The plant is not responding so fast like a natural plants, because they have lost the memory. When we use ElectroCulture, we stimulate some prehistorical memory, and the plants react to magnetism or electricity like in a storm, because it's their history, their life. But if you have modified plants, like a genetically modified or GM seeds, sometimes there is zero results. So be careful.
Well, that's well said, Andrea. I've been looking through some of the questions. My gosh, there is a lot of activity in here. And I have to field here to not pull out questions that are unrelated to the topic. Sorry, because there are some that are good questions, but they deserve their own presentation unto themselves. Can a very thin wire work for the coil, Andrea? I think you basically answered that.
Yeah, but if you pick up if you see there's a question that maybe we can answer, would wrap the coil with different material, does it matter clockwise? Yeah, no problem, it works. And even you can turn it, but it works.
And what about it says here, what does crossing in the north direction mean? Can you speak to that one more time?
I mean, when you create the coil, you can cross, like Lakosky. If you go back one picture.
Without touching them, yeah.
Yeah, without touching it, but crossing the coil. Another one. Yeah, here.
Oh, sorry.
No, go.
No, even that one doesn't have
Yeah,
it.
another one, another. No, here. Yeah, no, one more.
Sorry.
Here. You see the copper around the
Oh
geranium
yeah,
is
that's
crossed.
right. The one at the top here.
You can even leave it open and don't touch the extremity or cross it. But usually I put in the ground or around seeds. Is a technique even to dynamize the seeds before planting the seeds. You can use a coil, you can use a spiral and pyramid. Now,
Well, which is what we're about to move to, which to keep on time, those of you who are listening, I mean, we're happy to go over an hour and a half, but we still have 3 parts. We've got my portion on pyramids and we have Francesco on water.
yeah, so
And
we move on,
so,
then
oh, I keep clicking on the wrong.
we share at the end by tomorrow a follow-up and see again.
Yeah, pyramid power. Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite areas. It really gets me excited because it's so bizarre and it's so mysterious and there's so many elements to it. The one thing I really want to say about pyramid power is it's had a bad rap, particularly in the scientific community. Yet there's a lot of research that's going on, even in journals. I've come across research out of Japan, Korea, in the last few years as well. And there are some thesis work on pyramids and seeds, which you've got some resources on that, as do I, Andrea. We can share that at a later point. So there's a lot of evidence to show that there's a mechanism at play. There's a lot of debate as to what is happening. In 10 minutes, I have a struggle to go into all of that. But I will say that one of the things that's happening with pyramids is it's likely attracting some form of cosmic energy within the electromagnetic spectrum, perhaps. Likely not. It could be something completely different that is in the realm of dark energy. I don't know what that is. There are different theories. You hear about torsion fields. We hear about the 0 point energy. There's a lot of different ideas around pyramid power. Cosmic energy is thrown around quite a bit, but it just points at something. It doesn't explain what is happening, but there's a relationship to geometry. This is the part that's really important to mention. There's a reason why the Egyptians went to such extreme lengths to make the proportions of their pyramid to align in such a way that it formed the diameter at the base from one corner to the other was the diameter of the diameter of the Earth, and with that angle of 41 degrees, we get up here to the tip of the pyramid, where you see it would touch the center of the moon if the moon was to be stacked on the Earth. What this is showing is the Fibonacci sequence is encoded here within the pyramid, as well as phi and pi, rather. So Fibonacci, phi, and pi. Geometric mathematical constants are present. This is another pyramid that also has the Fibonacci sequence, but it's done. This is Golad's pyramid from Russia, Ukraine. And this is spherical geometry, where the spheres on top of each other represent the Fibonacci sequence. Really fascinating, this stuff. So geometry is having a role. That's likely a consideration with what's making these things work. And it's important to work within the dimensions that are well understood. So using the dimensions, you can reverse engineer, and we do go over this in more detail in upcoming material, but you can reverse engineer the Giza pyramid dimensions, which is 41 and 52 degrees. You can reverse engineer the Nubian pyramid, 72 degrees. You can reverse engineer Golad's pyramid, which is 76 degrees, if I recall correctly. All of those have the golden ratio encoded, and there are different applications so that where you can use it, where you can actually see results, which is, charging plants. Now, I do want to say there are some ways that make pyramids work and some ways that do not make them work. And if you do not follow the right procedures, you can actually cause harm. And there are some concerns even when you do follow the right procedures. I think pyramid research is really valuable to experiment with, but you have to proceed with caution. And I personally, I've seen people put pyramids on their beds. I've seen pyramids, people who meditate in pyramids for long periods of time. It does stimulate alpha brainwave activity, which is very good for intuition and alertness, with inspiration, etc. But it might have other effects. It can essiccate things. It can dry things out, particularly where you place something in a pyramid. So proceed with caution or study it well. The other application here is charging with basalt, powders, volcanic rock dust. You can charge other stones as well, crystals, quartz. We're seeing that this has an effect when you broadcast it at scale. This is one of the techniques I used within the Galaxy Garden that I had shared with before. The Galaxy Garden, which is here, was the shape of a galaxy, as I mentioned before. I broadcasted pre-charged basalt geotherapy over each of the beds, and I think that was one of the mechanisms. This sunflower here, the leaves, they were like this big. It wasn't the tallest sunflower I ever grew because it was a very windy site, but the leaves were just enormous. It was really bizarre to see. This is me here in a photo with Satish Kumar. If you should look him up, he's a wonderful man. He was a Jainist monk who opened a university in the United Kingdom, Schumacher College, coming to see the garden, and one of the most pioneering universities in the UK on ecology, and this is where Lovelock with the Gaia hypothesis. There's a direct connection there. Those of you who are familiar with the Gaia hypothesis. Pyramids also work with charging fermentations. So there's a biostimulation occurring here. It's increasing the conductivity of soil, but it's also increasing the activity of microbes, which allowed this person to continue fermenting in cold winters, where his other brews, where he was also doing beer, it didn't work. It was too cold, yet it seemed to stimulate the microbes enough to get them moving. So I could really imagine those who work with compost tea extractions. There's ways that this could be integrated very successfully. The Giza pyramids, I mentioned again, their angles. There's a lot of very bizarre phenomena within the mathematics. Many of you are familiar with some of these things. Not enough time this evening, unfortunately, to go into all the details. I've got a whole math equation here, which will be in the slide ebook. But preface to say, it outlines the relationship with the golden ratio, as well as pi, which is, to my knowledge, the only structure, man-made or otherwise, that have both of these mathematical constants within it. So the Egyptians knew what they were doing. And the energy concentrates. This is interesting to point out. In the pyramids of Giza, it's in the king's chamber, which is roughly a third up from the base. And that is where your seed charging is going to be most effective, which if you go back, you can see these plants raised up. This dimension is the Nubian pyramid, which tends to bring more energy upwards, less energy in the center, but still beneficial for charging. One of the mechanisms that are important to get right, and we go into this in more detail in the fundamental series. This is the KP index. This is Space Weather Alert, which is an app that you can use to monitor the sun's geostorm activity. 7 is very high. We had a KP6, a solar storm that if it just in January, actually, it was a solar flare that could have knocked out, it could have been the one that knocked out all of our internet infrastructure. But it didn't. During the daytime, this is when you want to charge your seed, and you want to do it in alignment with heightened sunspot activity. We're in a solar minimum right now, a grand solar minimum. There are 3 cycles that are well understood. We are in the bottom of each of those 3 cycles. And it's important that we improve the geomagnetism in our soil. We utilize telluric energy. We use these techniques to mitigate against the fact that we're in this solar minimum, which has an impact on life. One of the things I want to mention is the solar minimum is actually decreasing our resistance to disease. There's a direct link to pandemics, COVID, direct link to famines historically. And it's really important that we get these techniques right. I will say we don't have enough time for questions for this. We can draw one question, Andrea, if you can find it. I want to mention that orienting the pyramid, if I go back, you can use your phone here on one. This says true north. The Great Pyramids of Giza are aligned true north. Magnetic north is different and always moving. It takes a lot of effort to align it true north. You can get results by aligning your pyramid with magnetic north, and you would use a compass for that. So you have one face aligned magnetic north, one south, east, west, and that's going to be most effective.
All right.
Yeah.
So pyramid, like many devices, works a lot with lights, with sunlights, and so solar storms are important. We have to keep an eye. The result can change a lot. The question for you is how would you use electroculture with aeroponics or hydroponics, for instance? We have a session in the fundamental about water. We have Francesco speaking about water, but if you want to comment, please.
Well, that's I ran a commercial farm selling salad mixes, microgreens for about 10 years, and I have a large greenhouse which is halfway to becoming an aquaponic system. I've got all the infrastructure in place. So I've reflected on this a little bit. I mean, charging water, magnetizing water is an easy solution. Francesco will go into that in more detail. I think if you're doing a Dutch bucket system, which is hydroponic, and you're using a grow medium, don't use perlite, which is commonly used. Use a volcanic porous stone, and then you can charge that before you put that in your Dutch bucket. And you could do that also for aquaponics as well if you're doing a media bed system.
Yeah, great. And more technique. We go through the fundamentals. All right, Francesco.
You get to go into water. Here's your time to shine, my friend.
Here you are.
Let's get the wave. Okay. Water is I would call it one of the most important elements we are dealing with, as we are basically made of water. Our food is made of water. We all drink water, and is a very important part for us. If you want to start with the slide, okay. This first slide, what you can see, this is a devices I built, and they are to inform the water. This particular one I use for people, my family. We normally use it, and because obviously as a plant, we sharing this need for water. If we start to use this charged informed water, even to us it bring big benefits. We're going to stay obviously in the course. We are talking more about plants, so this is when you want to get to the human side, we should get in advanced courses. and where we can talk about this one subject as well. In here, we see on this picture, we can see how the what is charged water, which is what we call water of light. It's basically, it is used to prepare cuttings, making absolutely enormous difference in having natural timing from since you cut the branches and you put in the water, to having achieved really big different results if we start to use the water of light. We can when let's say in a period of time naturally you would achieve 2-3 centimeters of roots coming out from the cuttings. When you actually start to immerse and keep the branches in this charged water, we can go straight away from 3-4 times greater, and even possibly somehow in some way even 10 times greater. Is if you can obviously well, if you have a look here, the thermostat is temperature extremely low, but that makes no difference in when we use charge informed water. If you can move on the next slide, please. This one which we use in also magnets, and these are experiments what we see on the way magnets work. As you can have basically you can have water charged through magnets, or going with a magnet directly on the plants, which is still bringing benefits to it. Next slide, please. Here we have some corn. They were experiment done with just corn plants. They were given water which was magnetized before, and the corn itself, we can see that it mature much faster. The shoots are much longer, and once you get the product is dried, the weight is still much greater than if it was used normal water. On here we can see charged water on the right hand side. You have some grass, and on the right hand side of the picture it's just the normal water has been used, and on the left hand side instead we use both water we charge with magnets or with the antennas, because as we're going to teach in the fundamental, we're going to have about almost anything between almost 15 different techniques to charge, to program the water, to give information to the water. And here on the left hand side again, there was some plants. Yeah, you can see here better. It's now the next slide. Thanks, Andrea. Yes, you can see here with the strawberries. We use in normal water or charged water. You can see on the right hand side the fruit, the strawberry itself. They're very extremely small. They're still green, and in the same time, instead we are on the left hand side. We achieved plants that is giving us much more mature fruit. At the bottom again, you can see we've been using on the right hand side magnetic water, and on the left hand side has been used just normal tap water. Here there is this device which is basically can be attached to the water hose, and there's instantly magnetize the water. So it's extremely everything we're going to teach has a very simple applications. Most of the things are very easy to use. So don't worry about if you don't get the concept. There is a time to go and explain them. At the moment, we're just going to give you a kind of a menu of whatever is available and how to use it. Then in the second time, we start to understand why they work. which is very interesting as well. Obviously, here again you can see two magnets just put aside of copper pipe where you can, that is like a copper pipe of the main or wherever water is coming from. So as you can see, is extremely simple techniques. We can use this on the, okay, let's start from the left hand side. You can see magnets just simply put on the top, which is a steel worker in the image in the middle again. And on the right hand side, this is an interesting tool, because that actually is the little red piece of plastic, the pipe is actually it's something that is used for kids to show them how the vortex work. And basically what's happening, as you can see here, when the water it gets twisted, it gets spin on the left hand side, basically then we will go obviously through the subject much better in the course, but basically when you spin the water in the left hand side, you disprogram it, and when the water is spinning on the right hand side again like a spiral, so you actually put the information inside the water. And you can see here you have this small device. You basically you put in between two bottles, and then you start you start to let the water spin, and basically going down on the right hand side, circling and spinning in the right hand side. In the very moment at the bottom of the vortex, you get the magnets. So there, exactly there, the water gets informed by the information received by the magnetic frequencies of the magnets. Now you can go on the next slide, please. Oh, yeah, that's it then.
Yeah, you are ready for some questions?
Yes, if anyone is really want to have some question, we can answer. I think we still have some time. Yeah.
There's a question by Rachel if we can supply some link for Plant Surge products, Ray. Maybe you have any connection with Plant Surge?
I'm sorry, I lost you. I couldn't really hear.
Ray, we can't hear you. You need to activate your microphone.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I do have a promo link for Plant Surge, and I have experience with Plant Surge. They sent me some gear to experiment with, and I've seen results. I like Plant Surge because it is it's a pretty, relatively speaking, it's a low cost tool. There's some very expensive commercial water tools that exist on the market. Plant Surge, they're using very strong magnets, which you can do on your own if you want to take the time to do so. But if you're running a commercial system, or you just want to, click and play, that's the way to do it. I'll send that in a follow-up email afterwards.
Yeah, please. But of course, during the fundamentals, we can explain do-it-yourself technique. But you can always choose if you want a ready device, if you want to do yourself. So we are free to choose, but we can facilitate that too. So thank you, Ray, for the follow-up. Another question.
Yeah, this is something we actually do, which is very interesting part. We once the people have joined our courses, then we also do like a live workshop. So where we actually teach physically how to make your own devices, because again, this is all part of the belief in what we are doing. So because which is the spreading of this knowledge. So obviously it's not only the theoretical part, but you need to be able to, in the end of it, you need to be able to build your own things and devices, so you can be self-sufficient. You can discover new things, because what is really interesting in this world is in the continuous evolution. Every day we keep getting in touch with each other. I discovered this. This one it works better. This is what worse. So it's a constant update, even for us that we work as a professionally. what I'm experiencing now doing the academy with Andrea is amazing, because we get so much information every day, and it's really interesting because also while we are studying these new things, we also experimenting and completely new things that maybe one of us just get an idea, and then okay, let's try, and then the whole group start together. But it's really motivating, because when you start to see this result, when you start to see that the food that you produce has these incredible qualities, then you really get motivated this one really gives you motivation in trying to discover more and understand even more about what we're doing. Is that not true, Andrea?
That's why we love it, because everybody return like a kids in the garden.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I love about ElectroCulture, is it brought out a sense of wonder and curiosity, like humility, that we really don't know anything. Like ultimately, like it's a bottomless
and then
world.
You are so curious that you create a connection with the nature, and that's very important, because like I say, half of the results are coming from us.
Absolutely.
And, when you are conscious, devices are just tools.
I call them consciousness augmentation tools.
Exactly.
Cats.
At the end,
no, everything comes from us. We are the main antenna, the main aerial. It's us. So
and you observe, you influence, you observe, but when you understand how nature works, it's so fantastic. So it's great for our growth, for our evolution, not only for that.
I'm trying to see here if we've got a simple question on water that we can answer. Nomi, which I just spoke with you on Messenger a few hours ago. I'm glad you made it in. How does magnetized water differ from groundwater source, i.e. a lake or a stream water? What is the mechanism at play with, because geomagnetic phenomena, if there's enough time, I could tell a story, but we don't have enough time. I had this experience, which I'll have to do at maybe in a podcast or something, but experience in a Native American teepee with a water ceremony, and the water in the adjacent lake began to bubble. So there's a connection to human consciousness at play as well. It's not just that causes the phenomena to occur.
Yeah, so what's the question for Francesco, the water wizard?
Nomi says, how does magnetized water differ from groundwater, i.e. a lake or a stream?
The difference, basically, you get in the electromagnetic frequency of the magnet itself that get change the structure of the water. This one is a bit. I would recommend to very simple, even to find to have a look at something on Masaru Emoto. You can find a lot of even video on YouTube. Is a really big man on the subject of the water, and basically you can see how the water changes its molecular structure. Depending from the stimulation, the stimulation received, and is the way the magnet influence the water gives through electromagnetic frequencies, is it just give the water these properties where which can better the quality of the food.
Well said.
Obviously, unless you have on a stream under the ground, the water pass through paramagnetic rocks, whatever, then obviously you're gonna have the water that is gonna get the magnetic properties as well under the ground, not necessarily only through the magnets, but obviously with the magnets.
Sorry. There's another question that just came through, Francesco. If someone puts a magnet on their tap, how do they position it? What poles do they use?
You should put, basically you get them in the way that they attract each other. So you want to get actually like next to the from both sides of the pipe. So you really want the stream of the water to be inside, no, on one side of the, with the magnet all in one side.
Yeah, okay. We see all this detail. We have a 2-hour
Yes.
session of water. We speak about Emoto, Schoberger, Gerald Pollack, Del Giudice, all the main big
Pioneers.
boss of the water.
Yeah, there's a
Emoto.
So there are many techniques. We give you real practical advice. And that's the objective of the fundamentals. In any case, you can try. Remember that we learn through experience, so everybody is free. But if you have a teacher, a shortcut will be easy. You make less mistake. So the MasterClass. Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, no, because the subject is so great. When we talk about electroculture, really, I don't know how many here we've been studying and researching, and so obviously one like I believe it's very important that this fundamental to be taken as it gives you, it puts on the frequencies. Basically, we start to talk about the same language then, because there are a lot of subjects in electroculture that they really go deeper. That's what we're gonna talk. But if you don't have the very beginning the ideas, we can't carry on in the conversation, because you really need to start to the basic concepts as they work. Once you understand the basic, then we can really deep. If we talk about water, same than the spiral, we can have a week course only on each single subject, possibly even more. But yeah, that's why it's joining this fundamental, I believe, is really important. So it gives you the chance then to interact with us properly, so where we can sort out issues, problem,
Well, you know,
victories in result as well, because
yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about this work is that all of these different topics, they intersect, you know, like once you get this masterclass was kind of a buffet. It was to give you, there are some techniques, especially if you reference the slide ebook, that can help you get started. But the truth is if you really want to understand the depth of it, we do have a secondary course, and Francesco mentioned the name, the Fundamental Series, which is a 4-part series. You know, because we see a lot of people in the community that still keep posting things that just they're not based on any kind of sound principles. You know, and the truth is you can keep playing with spirals, you know, and that's fine, but there's a whole other world to it. And if you start to do your own experiments with pyramids, for example, or even water, I mean, you can do things wrong that can have consequential effects on your plants or on you if you're not doing things appropriately. So it is important to learn more depth, because there's a whole world of unseen energy that's behind the scenes that we really are just beginning to scratch the surface of, and life itself is truly energetic. It's an interplay that is truly dynamic, and there's a lot going on. And a lot of this can be used to grow high quality, nutrient dense food, medicine. And if you're a commercial producer, you can even actually do so with less input costs. You can reduce your workload. And to be honest, this movement is right on the cusp. Like it's just starting to emerge again in English. It's been around for a while in Italian and in French. It's starting to come up into English. There aren't a lot of teachers out there. There's a lot of information that can move this movement along. And if you want to become a pioneer in electroculture, I think there's also a lot of opportunity for integrating that into your work, into businesses. into horticulture, into education. There's a whole limit. There's an incredible depth as to how you can apply it. This is a fun picture here. This is a picture of the phantom limb effect. This is done with Carillion photography. This is UV, the UV light measurement, and this is really bizarre, showing that there is a form that plants and other organisms have, and that when they get damaged, the energetic form remains. This is akin to biophotons, which Fritz Popp, very interesting researcher, professor, and going into, this is one of the topics we also go into depth on, is one of the likely mechanisms with geotherapy as well, has to do with stimulating the mitochondria in cells to function and then emit these biophotons, which have a stimulatory effect on all life, which is really, really fascinating. So this is just the beginning of the movement. Our fundamental series, which we start that on the 5th of February, which is just around the corner, a couple weeks from now. We have 4 parts. We have the first portion, which is we call the ElectroCulture Unveiled. This is harnessing the forces of nature. We're looking at the work. This is Andrea, who's going to be covering this portion, going into predominantly into antenna culture, into Christoph Flo's work. We go into sacred geometry. This is my portion here. We're looking at geobiology fundamentals. We're looking at pyramid power in more depth. We're looking at power tower installation, the relationship that shape has on nature, on life, and how these techniques and tools, how they intersect in a way that you can use to not just improve the health of your plants and your animals, if you have livestock, goats, etc. But this can be used also to enrich your home as well, and create a space that is more sacred, hence the name sacred geometry. These principles have a direct effect on life, and it's not just your plants, it's on you as well, which I've seen. We've got Francesco going into more depth with water as well, multiple techniques, greater depth into each of the techniques, how to use them, what context you would use them in, as well as some theory. And I'm sorry, I mentioned the Christoph Flo work. This is also Andrea presenting Christoph Flo. So we're not just looking at the first portion, which is the fundamentals of electroculture, which is giving you, a bigger picture of electroculture. The Christoph Flo portion at the end is looking more at telluric and atmospheric antennas. What are the mechanisms at play? It's putting these spiral antennas at scale. This is how you can apply it to a large homestead. This is how you can apply it to a farm. This is how you can apply it at larger production. And we have lots of benefits to the fundamental series. Just like we've done this one, we do an interactive live sessions. So they're done on Zoom. We've had some people complain about Zoom as a means. Presently, that's what we're using. But it gives us the ability for more interaction. When we do it live, you get your questions answered. We're going to go into more depth in the material, but we're also going to answer more questions. It'll be more interactive as well. We cover basics to advanced to get you started with electroculture. And there are techniques that you're not going to find anywhere else. I mean, maybe in French, if you speak French, or in Italian, but in the English community, they're very, very hard to come by. And
very limited, yeah.
So it's literally going to be one of the first workshops that's putting electroculture out in the English world. So it really puts you at an advantage. And
yeah, you will see it's very interesting, because once you start to get your head in and these things of the energy, because basically what is very important, that what we consider electroculture is is not, which is obviously is really important, is not just for the creation of superfood, super energetic environments, but it's electroculture is really interesting because we consider it literally as a bridge between the visible and the non-visible, because with the things that happen through the energy, organ energy, ether, call it whatever you like to call it, but you actually see material things happening in front of your eyes, because especially with plants, the reaction time compared to us is extremely fast. So really in few days you can see straight away results. And this one is really interesting, because once this one happens, your mind unblock and it literally open up to
entire universe.
Yeah, because you're okay. You just keep basically these things. You convince yourself that okay, those things exist,
Well,
even if nobody.
I mean, we're also indoctrinated, you know, in modern materialism.
This
that
is such a problem.
Even now, after doing this for many years and seeing incredible results, I still get a part of my mind that gets really doubtful. I'm like, maybe this isn't actually happening in this way, or maybe I'm making this up in my mind. But it's like, how many times do I have to do an experiment and see a result to you know, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but still you do it because you have seen something else working. So you say, okay, let's try, let's give it a go. Otherwise, you would never try, because I don't know, the way we grow up in school, these things nobody's talk about it. Nobody teach us those things, and
well, and
actually
even now,
they actually teach
the community, you'll get destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's not they're not teaching you. They're teaching you that they're wrong and they don't exist, and so you put everything this one as a sky fiction in your mind, you know, the section. But when you do electroculture, actually you break this barrier and you start to re-understand that there are a lot of energies, which is not the only one used for electroculture, but there's a much greater range, which is
electroculture is a gateway into a whole other world.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I do want to mention here a special thanks to everybody who donated, which, you know, this list got larger. I couldn't even fit it in the box. So big thank you to everybody here. And you will be getting your slide ebook. Some people did try to donate. Some of you on the recording of this, those of you live, bear with me, please. But some of you who are watching this on the recorded session, who you didn't get access into this room, there is an opportunity. If you want to get the slide ebook, you still can. So Andrea, do you want to mention anything else about our fundamentals course before we go into the Q&A? The price?
There are a lot of things we will explain, and it will be more and more questions. Now you have 1 million questions. After you will have 1 billion questions. So, it's normal. Don't be scared. We give you the advice. I will explain also my lesson learned. I did a lot of mistakes, so you can avoid it. The idea is to shortcut the learning process and giving what it works, what it doesn't work, and giving you more consultancy to go in the right direction and to have better results since the beginning, because otherwise it looks like electroculture is strange, is something supernatural. But if you apply correctly, you have great result. You save plants, you create a connection with the nature. So in reality, I discovered through my work doing consultancy that we really help not only the nature, we help people, we help community. Even today I was presenting a project to regenerate the land and to regenerate also people that needs to stay in contact and to eat very high quality food. So we have a big impact with natural things that everybody can do, and the idea is to share as much as possible. And also to reply to some question in the chat, we invest every year in research and development. We invest in more contents, more free contents, more contents with payment, because we need to invest again and share
Yeah.
more. So
We
it's
need to make a
we
life out
try
of
to
this work.
simplify the
Yes.
learning curve. That's the way. And then we have live session. Francesco will do in England. I teach in Germany, Switzerland, in Italy. Maybe in the future we can fly in some.
Well, let's we've got someone in the chat asking what the price is for the fundamental series and to speak on the times, the dates as well. We had a couple we've got do you know what the updated price is, Andrea?
I don't remember because I'm working in so many
Is it-
projects in parallel that we send an email.
Yeah, I think it's 150 is the,
51, 151 euros, if I'm not wrong.
and it's 4 parts, and it's done every Monday in the month of February. So we start on the 5th of February, and the following Monday, right until the end of the month. And it's the same start time as this MasterClass. It's so 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which those of you who are in many other time zones, you'll have to do the math on that, but it's the same as the MasterClass. So that's easy, the same day.
It will be recorded every time we record. So everyone receives the recording, receive a PDF, additional documents. Yeah, and the live is fun because at the end we keep space for question and answer.
Yeah. Also,
someone-
the courses
sorry.
will still be available if you can't make it now. Is anyway the courses will still available on the ElectroCulture website, so you always be the
Yeah,
chance
you can get a
to get it
replay as
later.
well.
Yeah.
You don't have to attend live. The bonus of attending live is you can access the questions and answer. Someone asked, Karen May Simpson, can you put a link in to donate? Yeah, so those of you who do want to donate to the masterclass that we just did, I'll send a link through email afterwards. I've been having a bit of trouble suddenly with the link. It seems to be having some problems, so I'll do that in the next couple days, and then you can get on the list for the ebook as well. What other questions we got here? Does anybody want to ask any questions with their microphones unmuted? Maybe someone in the chat feed can put an emoticon in if you have a question and you feel comfortable asking that in front of everyone. Come on, there's got to be someone here who has
The brave one. Where is the brave one? Where is the brave one?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you.
Just say who you are too, please.
Sure, I'm Brandon. I live in New Mexico. I've been working with pyramids and water sciences and farming and things for about 25 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I'm pretty aware. I've kind of pioneered the orgone movement in the early 2000s on the East Coast of America. And
congratulations.
Well done.
There are so many people like you, Brandon, quiet pioneers. I mean, maybe you have a big influence where you are, but there are so many people, and it's great for you to come forward and share that, who are working behind the scenes, that, you know, finally there's a chance for a lot of people to connect together with the internet, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, well, Right, that's true. And we all have gone through so much persecution and things that at this point, it's like the water is breaking on this movement. And so I'm very happy to just kind of jump in and give what I can. I am involved with scientists and biologists and things like this. So, as we move forward, I'd love to be one who takes samples and puts forward experiments and things for working in desert climates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we'll be in touch. I mean, I'll certainly go to all the classes and all of this kind of thing.
Wonderful.
So yeah. So
and
my main question,
if you want to contact us independently too for some type of collaboration or sharing of your work,
Yes,
you're free
absolutely.
to do so. So
wonderful.
Absolutely.
I'll do that. I'll reach out. For
so your
sure, I'll reach
question,
out.
sorry.
Yeah. So my question is on the water sciences. Like I'm aware of implosion techniques and enlivening and the way that the living body temperature of water is 72 degrees and these things. Would you say that that the simple magnetizing is the best bang for your buck on large scale farming? And if so, would you have any additions that you would advise for larger scale, large water pipes and these kind of things in addition to that?
Andrea?
Okay.
Let me take that. It's a simple way magnetizing the water. It's the simple. Sometimes I can answer this way, but I really prefer to use a combination. Okay, so magnetic field can increase the energy in a pipe very easily, simply, but depends on the water startup. Let's say when we start, so that's why we do the analysis of the water. I use also the ELM4, the life energy meter to understand where we start. And I use also system to move the water. It's very important to understand the level of start. And according to this level, we can apply movement, magnetic field, crystal things, other technique that we can go through the workshop together. Depends on the water beginning. So my idea is to combine movement and
More things.
and other things like light, sound, or magnetic field. And this is very simple. Very simple.
Even spirals, antenna spiral. You can.
Very simple.
Yeah.
But it's not enough, the magnetic. Sometimes you need to move the water in the proper way, like Schuberger is teaching, like flow form, experience, etc.
A simple hack that I've seen good results at, that's easy for farmers or anyone who uses drip irrigation. You said you're in a desert climate, Brandon. If you're using drip lines, you can elevate them slightly ahead, about 10 centimeters off the ground. And that motion of the dripping motion of the water will cause the plants to grow stronger. Very subtle, easy to use technique without having to buy anything as well.
Oh, that's fascinating. Thank you. And yes, I was looking at bringing all the water into a large tank because it doesn't seem enough to just magnetize it. So I really appreciate that, and I can't wait for the follow-up.
Because when you energize properly the water, then what you achieve, this is one of the point is very strong with everything we are doing. For example, if like especially in your situation, when we have like very dry summers, when you have water informed properly, you actually, the quantity of water that you actually need is really smaller than what you would normally need with normal water. So this one is really helpful because you got a small availability of water. Let's charge it properly. So let's use only a little bit of the water, not all in one go. This is another extremely good thing of charged water. So the consumption, the quantity you need to achieve the same result is they're really, really smaller. So this one, especially in your condition, if you're working in the desert, is going to be extremely helpful.
Yeah, then you can combine other technique like in the permaculture. So you can combine the mulching, you can combine the soil generation. Soil very important, because if the soil is live, you can keep more and more water inside, etc. So it's a mix of project design, water,
Compost tea.
compost tea, and then we can increase the energy life of the plants with electroculture, and the plant will be more resilient, more strong to hot and warm, and even this is another effect. So it's an holistic approach we try to teach, and you need to make case by case the design and the experiments, but more you understand, more you create life, and that's fantastic, because at the end,
We're going,
the nature will be grateful.
yeah, quite interesting. We're going to have in 3 weeks' time. We're gonna have a meeting in a vineyard where all the neighbors. This year in Italy was quite dry season, so there was not really much water, and all a lot of vineyard they had almost zero production because there was a lack of rain. And this guy in the middle of all the other vineyard, it has all in electroculture. He had one of his best years ever, and he had a lot of big quantities. A very good wine is coming out, and this is all the differences due to the electroculture installations.
We had someone also ask if a soaker hose, how would that apply? Yeah, I think all of the techniques we mentioned, magnetizing water, vortexing water, particularly before it goes from your main distribution. If you're using municipal water, you know, it might be useful to have it in a tank beforehand, and you do some techniques before you distribute it with an inline pump. If you don't have that advantage, you can just put a tap on the magnetized water technique. Does anyone else have a question that they want to ask orally? I do want to give special attention to people who donated. If you donated, we did promise a special opening for Q&A. So if someone who donated wants to ask a question, please come through. And I'll give you a few seconds if you don't. Anyone else?
They're shy.
No shy. There's a comment here, which I think is quite interesting, just to kind of scratch the surface of something. Someone's speaking about the relationship of longitudinal waves or scalar energy, which, yeah, this is something that is also up there with thinking of torsion field generation. I think there's a connection with scalar there. Longitudinal waves, I mean, this is a complicated subject. That's much more advanced work, but it does point at something. Scalar waves being that they're like if you have two cords connected to each other, like a rope, and you put a vibration between them, the movement creates a ripple effect, but it's not moving anything from point A to point B. It's just creating a connection wave. That's one way to look at the interconnectedness of things. And I think that that's likely one of the mechanisms with geometry as well. So thanks for that comment. Yeah, I think everyone's saying thank you. I had a great time. We're definitely appreciative of that. Doesn't look like we've got any other questions here. If anyone else does, we hit that 2-hour mark, which thank you all who stayed on to this point. And those of you in the replay, we thank you as well. And those of you who do want to attend the fundamental series, will have access to that in a subsequent email as well with all the details.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Francesco. Thank you, all
Thank
the
you.
partners. And
Yeah.
we follow up soon.
And sorry, one person did say, is there an ElectroCulture page where people can connect and share? So the page that David and I admin is called ElectroCulture Beginners to Advanced Community on Facebook. There's about 150,000 members, so it's very, very big. And then there's another community as well. ElectroCulture Collective is quite popular on Facebook. That's with Bobby, and that is it started in Australia and New Zealand, so it has a big audience in the Southern Hemisphere. So if you're growing in the South, that's also a good time to post content on there as well.
Good.
Thanks, everyone.
Now, have a
Excellent.
fantastic
Ciao.
day, night, and see you in the fundamental. Bye.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much to everyone. Bye, everyone.